Hey there, welcome back to Frames Team, and today let's have a look at the amazing 28 to 400 f4 to f8 VR. And yes, it can do almost everything. Hi, vlogging with the 28 to 400 and going to do some bird photography. Let's go.
The lightweight of the lens means that you spend a lot of time being mobile, moving around and exploring the location and actually spending time at the location without getting tired and actually experiencing the location well. The wind's blowing hard today out here and I love the atmosphere. The Nikon 28 to 400 has gotten some rain, but I'm confident about the weather sealing and the build quality of this lens. Let's take a few shots, let's take a few portraits here.
Hi, vlogging with the same lens, the 28 to 400, and going to do some street photography.
Similarly, while traveling or shooting streets, whether it's stills or video, you're not feeling tired and you give yourself that flexibility between 24 to 400 millimeters. You can never ever underestimate that.
Hi, vlogging with this lens and going to shoot some macro photography.
You can actually get quite close to a small object of flowers or insects or a fruit. It just gives you that flexibility and it's quite nice to have that.
Let's unbox the lens. Let's see what's inside this box. Every time someone buys a camera for the first time, they ask me for a lens that can do everything. They say, I want a lens that can shoot inside a restaurant or also outside when we are traveling. I want to shoot the mountains, they say. I want to shoot my pet, my kids playing. It's a tough ask, isn't it? I mean, essentially their brief is to have a lens within budget, a budget lens that can do everything. But you know what? Now I think I can recommend a lens to them. I think this lens is that lens, the lens that everyone wants to buy when they first buy a camera, or everyone wants to buy when they're confused and they're not made up in their head exactly what they want out of a lens. Basically, they want to have one lens and they want to have the whole experience. And that's so good. Imagine you can shoot wide, you can shoot mid, you can shoot short tele, mid tele, long tele shots of the same object, of the same scene, and be able to capture a complete sense of the story there. Do you know any other lens that can do that? I do not. So what can this lens really do? Here's a gist. Nikon used to have a 28 to 300 lens for DSLRs, and that all-purpose zoom lens just went through a mutation, and that's this lens now. It's a super zoom, meaning it can do 14.3 times zoom from 28 millimeters at the wide end to 400 millimeters at the telephoto end. On a crop sensor Z50 or ZSC, you'll get 42 millimeters at the wide end to 600 millimeters at the long end. It can do all that with a tiny turn of the barrel. Just this tiny turn, meaning you don't have to keep moving the barrel and then get to 400. It's just a twist and you reach the telephoto end. So you can move from 28 to 400 in a blink. On a crop sensor, you can move from 42 to 600 in a blink. It's got optical vibration reduction or VR or stabilization. So if your camera comes without VR, if you're using any of the crop sensor cameras like ZFC, Z50, you can have now optical stabilization coming through this lens. This lens, it's like a cinema lens. It's got zero focus breathing. In fact, it's crazy good lens for making videos because of that reason. And it really matters a lot for a lot of creators because they don't like distracting focus breathing in their videos. You're not going to get that in this lens. And imagine how affordable this lens is. You get that. Also, it's a truth that often when you're making films or videos, you don't need everything to be blurred in the background. You want a wide depth of field, meaning you want more of the scene to be in focus because you want to see what's happening in the scene. You just don't want to see the face of the character, nothing in the background at all. So therefore, the fact that this lens is an f4 to f8 lens is not really problematic for a lot of people who are looking to make videos and films, if you have adequate light, that is. So yes, a lot of people may look at the f number, a non-constant f range from f4 at 28 millimeters to f8, which starts at 200 millimeters to 400 millimeters. A lot of people may think that that's the weakness of this lens. It can be perceived as that, as a weakness, but the reality is that this lens is also very affordable. This lens is also very tiny and light. So if you think about that, for filmmaking and video making, this lens could actually be the best filmmaking lens, on one of the best filmmaking lenses on the Nikon lineup. And I'm not kidding, especially in good light. Think about that. Now, moving on, it's compact, like I said. It can do very good close up, almost macro. Well, not macro, but it can do very good close up, especially at the 400 millimeters telephoto end. It's got a zoom lock to stop lens creep. You can see this zoom lock here. So it's a tiny handy button there to stop lens creep. Interestingly, the lens feels like it wants to retract back softly unless you want to zoom out. It's an affordable lens. No other brand has a lens like this, and it's got this beautiful lens hood. It's quite a good looking lens hood actually. If you're shocked by what this lens can do, then subscribe and you'll soon see how this lens compares with the 24 to 120 f4. Let's talk about sports shooting and birding right now. I am shocked that such an affordable lens can go to 400 millimeters and that such a tiny and light lens can do birding. Yes, imagine how much the other lenses cost when you think of birding. This is a fraction of the price of those lenses, and even the 180 to 600 is almost double the cost. And if you are shocked too, then please subscribe to the channel and help this channel reach 6,000 subscribers in a month, guys. The autofocus is quite good too, not as good as the expensive Prime Z lenses, but this is plenty good. You will not see any problem in critical conditions. It's absolutely quiet and so sure to focus. It will always perform better than your expectations when it comes to autofocus. Let's talk about image quality. Let's talk about sharpness. 28 millimeters is the lens's weakness, if there is any weakness to this lens. Beyond the non-constant f point, which can go down to f8, things start improving post 50 millimeters. You see great sharpness in the middle, but the edges can look visibly soft at times, especially wide open. Everything becomes perfect at f8, but vignetting goes away completely only at f11. I actually love how this lens does better at 200 and 400 millimeters end than at the wide angle, at the wide end. Understand that whenever a zoom lens is made, you're covering a lot of length, right? You're covering a lot of focal lengths. So the scientists, the optical designers will have to choose the best area for its best optical performance. So they can choose the middle of the zoom range to be the best performing area of the lens, or they can choose to make the wide end of the lens very good, or they can choose to make the tele end of the lens very, very strong image quality wise. I think they have taken a right decision. Nikon have taken the right decision to make the lens very, very effective at the long end, which I really like. Now let's talk about bokeh, right? You have to talk about bokeh because you bought a 400 millimeters lens. You can get some nervous looking bokeh at times, sometime, but other times the bokeh is so sweet. The bokeh is so beautiful. You really feel like you're using a lens that's much, much, much more expensive than the actual price tag of this lens. Of course, it closes down to f8 at 200 millimeters, and from then onwards it stays at f8. But then even at 200 millimeters or at 400 millimeters, you can get some really good bokeh. You can get really, really good blur in the background, right? Almost in all situations. The autofocus areas have some chromatic aberrations, still f11 in some situations, but you see that more at the wide angle end. Good thing is that the chromatic aberrations is much controlled at the telephoto end, because in my view that's where you need it to be more perfect more often. The vibration reduction is good too, honestly. Not the best from Nikon, because Nikon has some amazing mind-blowing VR in some lenses. This is not bad. This is let's say this is 6.5 out of 10, given if I consider the best telephoto VR to be at, let's say, 9.5. And if you ever use the 800 6.3, you will see that happen. It's an amazingly stable lens at 800 millimeters. I would give it a 6.5 to 7, depending on the situation. So it's good, not the best. So good that you can have stable video clips even at 400 millimeters. Also good enough to give you stable shots at 1/50th of a second shutter speed. I tried 1/15th of a second shutter speed and it didn't work out. Well, my expectation was wrong, because I think I have my hands are not as stable. It's shaky, and I was shooting at 400 millimeters. Come on, I mean, yeah, 1/50th of a second at 400 millimeters is stupendous. In conclusion, this is the best value lens I have ever seen. This is the first pick for travel photography. A great studio shooting lens. This is unique for the Nikon Z mount, because no one else is doing this kind of lens for the full frame cameras. It's a great evolution of the 28 to 300 or the 70 to 300 focal range lenses. And if today you're looking for a lens with your Z5, with your Z6 II, Z6, even with the Z8, and you're thinking, what lens should I go for? And I want to cover almost everything. This is the lens. This is a must have as an all round lens that gives you a very good balance between optical quality, focus performance, video quality, video autofocus performance, lack of focus breathing, sharpness. Look at the most critical factors, and this lens qualifies with flying colors. Thanks for watching this video from Frames TM, and if you're new here, subscribe before coming back here for the second or third time. Subscribe and help the channel reach 6,000 subscribers. I'm going to see you soon with another one.